welcome back to Queer Gals Watch the West Wing.
Hi, Leigh. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. We were both working late last night because we're both singers. No, we're not. But so we are a little delirious, but we have finished officially season 2
of The West Wing. I can't believe it. I mean, it's been a journey this season.
Wow. I mean, to think where we started at the shadow of two gunmen, it feels like a lifetime ago.
The twists and turns have been absolutely crazy.
So much to unpack. I'm so glad that we've built in some processing time for ourselves.
I mean, honestly, I think it's a gift of self-care to one another. So yeah, today's episode is going to run similarly to at the end of last season, where Leigh and I decided to have our own kind of town hall meeting to discuss the experiences of the season and some just simply some processing time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not to bring up town halls, which obviously there is an absolute craze for town halls happening in the US at the moment with everything that's going on, which we love. We love our leaders being held to account. But this is going to be, I think, a slightly less triggering experience, hopefully, than any of our American listeners who are absolutely like packing out high school gyms and church halls to demand answers from their elected leaders.
We love democracy.
If any of our listeners are doing that, by the way, go you, hun. Love that for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Leigh and I this time round, we were like, look, we love to gab, we love to chat, we love to talk. But really, we're kind of obsessed with what all of you think.
Yeah.
So this time we've kind of opened up questions, thoughts, topics, titles to our listeners and our patrons. And so we're going to be working through a little list of questions, Leigh. I hope you're ready.
I'm super ready. I was born ready. I'm thrilled. I'm excited. It's also been such a joy to go back and kind of rediscover all of the gems from this season.
I was saying to Leigh, I could spend days doing this. I could spend days just going through each episode and thinking about what I loved about it.
Indeed, it feels a little facetious from us to do a recap of season 2, given that we've only watched this season once. And I know there are many of you, our dear listeners, who have maybe watched it 10 times.
Yes.
And that is why we so appreciate your input on your most iconic moments, coming from a more studied place.
From a more seasoned wingnut, if you will.
Yes.
I mean, I hope and wish that one day I have knowledge and love for the West Wing as deep as my knowledge and love for, say, Band of Brothers or the Lord of the Rings extended trilogy.
Dear listener, when I say that Fi loves Band of Brothers.
I love Band of Brothers. I know every word of every episode.
Perhaps, dear listeners, you could let us know your appetites for when we eventually finish the West Wing in 2035. Whether you'd like a short series on Queer Gals Watch Band of Brothers.
Which should just be me sobbing, being like, this is so beautiful, men are so fragile, why is war so devastating? I mean, I don't know. I think I was just a very lonely teenager who was so obsessed with TV and film.
The period accuracy, Fiona, it's not to be beaten.
I love detail. She's a detail gal.
She's a Virgo. As previously mentioned on this podcast, she's a Virgo.
I know that a kind of teenage Fi, I got my first laptop when I started sixth form in the UK, which is when you're like 17, and it had a DVD drive in it. And I remember going to HMV. Do you have HMV in America? But like it's like a kind of like DVD music store.
Imagine the DVD section of Barnes & Noble, dear listeners.
So I went there, I had some like birthday money, and I bought the box set of Band of Brothers, and I bought the extended edition box set of Lord of the Rings. And then just firmly sort of for the next 3 years, just didn't spend any time with human beings and just watched all of those over and over again. And that's why I'm the person I am today. Shall we? So I think we're going to start with what we thought was an easy one, what actually ended up being very difficult, which was
yes.
David from Patreon asked us what were our top 5 overall episodes.
Jesus Christ.
We were like, a simple place to start, David. Fantastic. The reality is it was almost impossible to choose 5.
I felt like I was putting together the lineup of Cat's Eye. Like it felt like that level of stakes. I felt like the lineup of Cat's Eye was in my hands. It was such a hard decision.
So Leigh and I massively cheated and just basically texted each other and were like, let's choose 5 different ones each because then we can discuss more. So Leigh, do you want to roll through your list? Should we just say in no particular order?
Okay, no, actually, I have very strong feelings about my top episode of the season.
Okay.
And I say this not from an artistic point of view, because I think, so many of our listeners have been in touch to say, Two Cathedrals is the most brilliant standalone episode of television ever written. But for me personally, the episode that I found most satisfying, and I think that I will be inclined to rewatch the most, was In the Shadow of Two Gunmen Part 2.
It's a stonker. It's an absolute stonker.
It was a real revelation for me that Aaron Sorkin can write rom-com.
Yes.
Which is my genre of choice, generally speaking. I just thought it was phenomenal. And because I believe that is the moment that we invested in the female leads of this show to the same extent that we had invested in the stories of the male leads in season 1.
I agree. It
was the moment that it was like that I realized that the show actually, because I think they did some disservices to some of the female characters in season 1, CJ especially. And I think this was the episode where I was like, no, this show values CJ. This show values Donna. So I think that was a really beautifully performed episode as well. It was the moment for me that Janelle Maloney really came into her own as a dramatic actress in this series.
Well, she was given enough. I think that's the thing. And like, we can say that across season 2. It just felt like there was an acknowledgement that the female characters needed more. Like the actors were doing a phenomenal job in season 1, but they just didn't have anywhere to go. Like the writing didn't give them anywhere to go. And so season 2 we've had incredible character development for all of the female characters because I just think some more thought's been put into it. And also something I will say for The Shadow of Two Gunmen Part 2, and actually for the whole of this series is Aaron Sorkin has a real flair for a flashback, He has such a flair for a flashback, which I think we didn't fully appreciate in season 1. It does feel like we've expanded the world in season 2, which we love. But I will now go into my other favorites in no particular order. For me, that is number 1. But from here, I'm going in no particular order. So my next favorite episode of the season was the Portland trip. That was so fun. Singing the uni chant on the plane. Very, very good.
But also Josh trying to defeat the kind of equivalent of the Defense of Marriage Act and chatting with his gay pal, which we loved to see. And also it was the introduction of the West Wing mess.
It was.
Yeah. Also, more problematic, but I did also enjoy, that was the episode of Donna's red dress going on her big date and Josh's ribbing of her.
Oh, yeah. With what's the incredible quote when it's like, Donna's on a date with who? Someone she has no future with or something like that.
Yeah. So I think the Portland episode, and then the thing is, the very next episode, so that was season 2, episode 7, the very next episode, we were hit with Shibboleth, the Thanksgiving ep. We have Alison Janney absolutely showing us her comedy chops, acting with 2 turkeys as scene partners.
Not 1, but 2.
Yes. We also have a moment of reckoning for kind of the intermingling of faith and politics with the debate over school prayer. We have the introduction of Leo McGarry's sister.
Yes.
And also we have the famous moment with Paul Revere's carving knife and Charlie Young.
Leigh, I'd forgotten about the knife.
It's a top ep. Dare I say, actually, I think it's for me top In the Shadow of Two Gunmen Part 2. And then I think Shibboleth is right underneath that for me.
Yeah, there's so much.
There's so much. Then clocking in next for me, I have Ellie. Need I say more?
No.
It was a wish fulfillment episode for us. We were crying out for more Bartlet daughters, and that is what we received.
And the thing is now we know all of them. We know all of their stories, but we're still yet to meet the eldest Bartlet daughter.
We are, yes.
Something which no doubt we'll come back to with our predictions for next season.
Yes, absolutely. And I also just loved the kind of vulnerability that we were given access to in Ellie with President Bartlet. I think we saw a different side to his personality. We saw the chip in the armor for the first time, which we loved. Also, Dr. Millicent Griffith, a moment for Millie.
And that incredible scene, which was like between her and Bartlet, where he says, "Why does my daughter hate me?" And she's like, "Okay, hun."
Yes. And see, the thing is, I know that my list is going to be controversial because I know that I have left out some absolute big hitters here. But I think these are the episodes for me that I will return to again and again. Whereas, some of the other big episodes were actually almost too much for me.
I know what you mean, because I feel like the ones that you've chosen have a really gorgeous kind of like a little bit of everything. There are some episodes in this season that just like, I just felt stressed.
Yeah, and I almost don't know that I could watch again because they were just like almost too real. But my final favorite episode, and I know that this feels kind of counterintuitive because obviously we hate what Aaron Sorkin did to us in this episode, but my final top episode for this season is 18th and Potomac. I think just the whole Sagittarius of it all. Obviously, we always love a moment with Kenny and Joey Lucas. And I really loved the way that we had, to that point, built the sense of stakes so that we really felt like we were inside the inner circle in 18th and Potomac.
Yeah, I feel like that if it had come at any other point in the season, everyone would have responded incredibly differently.
Yes, and also I think what I loved about 18th and Potomac is so much of it was very a play, in that we just had 5 people in a room with a problem to solve, and they couldn't leave until the problem was solved.
Yeah, you're so right. Like, we were kind of trapped in the consequences of everything.
Okay, Fi, hit me with your best shot, in the words of Blondie. Fire away.
So I'm just going to go in kind of chronological order rather than...
Yeah.
So I'm going to start off pretty dark.
Okay.
I'm going to go in with Noelle.
I can completely see that from an acting performance perspective. Bradley Whitford really did knock our socks off, didn't he?
I think it was the acting quality from Bradley Whitford. I loved the framing of the episode with the flashbacks and then the sessions with Dr. Keyworth. I also thought that Dr. Keyworth was a great, one-time new character. I loved the use of music in the episode and like sound and like that being a trigger for Josh's PTSD, and just thought all of that was handled really well. Obviously, Donna and Yo-Yo Ma.
I forgot about Yo-Yo Ma. Wow.
And obviously this like the intensity of like Josh and his obsession with the pilot.
Oh my God, yes.
And then it's also the one that has the storyline about the woman being triggered by the painting.
And Bernard.
So obviously Bernard. So I think for me, that one, although it is a heavy one, it's got some, and it's Christmas.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Okay, gorgeous. And then I'm going to go on to somebody's going to emergency, somebody's going to jail.
Fascinating.
And I'll obviously take that for one of the great musical cues of this season. But for me, this was the one with the espionage storyline and Sam Seaborn and Donna's friend. And like finding out that he was actually really a spy and Nancy giving him the book of secrets.
Yeah, that was a great Nancy moment. You're so right.
And Bartlet's presidential library and him being grumpy about his library. And I mean, obviously one of the best things about this episode is it's the big block of cheese day episode of this season.
Oh my God, of course. Yes, of course. With the map.
With CJ and the cartographers, which I do think was just some of my favorite writing of this season, which is so fun.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's also the episode where Toby gets sent to deal with the unruly protesters.
An absolute classic.
And we get Officer Rhonda Sachs.
Oh my God,
and
Rhonda
they're
Sachs.
Pithy back and forth and how they're both flirting with each other, but they're both so respectful.
Oh, that was such a flirty episode for Toby because he was also flirting with CJ that episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, that was a great episode for him.
It's also the crazy Bartlet moment where Charlie's there's a fax that's just come in from Jonathan Bartlet. And Bartlet's that name sounds familiar. And Charlie's well, he's your brother. Crazy. And then I'm going to say, I love the Stackhouse filibuster.
Okay.
I know that there's perhaps elements of this episode that haven't aged the best because they've kind of become outdated. But the concept of this old dude filibustering and reading Charles Dickens and recipe books was so enjoyable. And again, it had that energy of there was something really satisfying about the framing of it because you had this filibuster that was kind of bookending the whole episode. And then we were so how long has he been on his feet? Also just a moment for grandfathers all.
Yeah.
And the fact that everyone wanted to get away. So CJ wanted to go to her dad's. It's the letter writing.
Sam Seaborn wanted to go on his gay weekend.
Yeah. In his Tommy Hilfiger quarter zip jacket. We also get some Hoynes in this episode posing for the photo with the old ladies in their quilts.
Oh my God.
Which I just thought was so funny. And the kind of flashbacks to CJ's missing Egyptian artifact that she'd broken in her suitcase, which I really loved.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was also a great Carol episode.
Yes.
It was a great Carol episode.
And Hoynes being once again a petty bitch and him starting to get really zesty with Toby.
Yes.
And us kind of digging into that backstory. So this is the one where it's
the total tonnage of what I know that you don't could stun a stampede of oxen or something. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. And you're why don't talk like that? You're not a cowboy.
I think every American man, though, does feel to some extent that he is a cowboy.
Yes. Or an astronaut or a professional football player.
Or Batman.
I want to be a toxic billionaire. Okay, so then my number 4 is The Fall's Gonna Kill You.
Yeah.
Now, on paper, you're what really happens here? But for me, I have Joey Lucas. I have Oliver Babbish. I also have Abigail Bartlet. So in terms of my special guest stars, bam, 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 opening credits, I know I'm in safe hands.
100%, yeah. Babbish may be my favorite new character of season 2.
Yes. We also have the iconic line from Abby, which is, the president is very glad you're here, particularly in this time of nonsense, about a potentially career-ending medical cover-up for both her and her husband. But yeah, I think I really loved the writing in this episode. I thought there were so many really gorgeous, fantastic two-hander scenes where the writers just really gave space for the actors in this show to just absolutely smash it out of the park.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, this episode was about all of the people having big, sexy brains. And so, the scene between, CJ and Oliver Babbish, and they're, both trying to intellectually outdo each other.
Yeah.
At this point, everything's still secret. I think I really loved those episodes where, everyone's sitting on the information about Bartlet's health. Their teams don't know, and we're having secret meetings in the basement. It's also, again, Sam Seaborn being given some space, his Chicago speech thing.
Yeah.
Him monologuing, people silently writing.
A great Bonnie and Ginge episode also.
Yes. It's also where we have the lovely scene between Sam and Toby in the mess about Batman and Robin.
Oh.
I'm Bruce Wayne and you're my ward. It's also where we have the really fun argument between Abby and Jed in the Oval Office, where he calls her hot pants.
An iconic moment.
But and she's like gets out of the limo and she looks like Elizabeth Taylor.
Yeah.
And then he's really grumpy and says that he hates Ellie's boyfriend.
Yeah.
And it has the amazing scene in the airport between Joey and Josh.
Oh, that was so good. That scene may have been one of my top Josh moments of the season.
Yeah.
Which I know sounds crazy in a season that also has Noelle, but I just felt like it was such an amazing moment of like Josh showing why he's good at his job, you know?
And it's also another moment for emotional Toby with the, I'll be right here in my office when you're done. And then finally, I am going to be a basic bitch and I'm going to say 2 cathedrals.
It's got to be done. You know, it would have been wrong if one of us hadn't chosen it. It would have been wrong.
Just flashbacks.
I loved the "we're not in Kansas" moment anymore with Mrs. Landingham. Wow.
It gave me flashbacks. It gave me Dire Straits. It gave me Jed in the Rain. It gave me grief. It gave me religion. It gave me soliloquy. I honestly have no notes about the episode. And in terms of like, if that was a season finale and then you're like, I'm going to have to wait 6 months or more to see another episode.
Yes, crazy. Also, I did learn from one of our patrons that the first episode of season 3 was actually delayed from our patron, Amy, who said, so this is her 18th and Potomac story. It's the day the episode aired. My husband is not a wingnut, but he does follow real politics. There was something political that night, and I was guarding the TV with my life to get to the end of the episode. After Jed tells Mrs. Landingham to come back so he can kick the tires, my husband changed the channel. I argued that there would be a tag at the end, but he told me it would just be the credits. I didn't find out about her death until the following episode recap. I screamed and called my mom to ask, and she hung up on me saying it was a car accident. Now let me watch the show. I've never forgiven my husband, and should we ever divorce, I'm adding it to my list of grievances.
Amy.
So imagine going into 2 cathedrals not having seen the final moment of 18th and Potomac where you learn Mrs. Landingham is dead.
I need to sit and reflect on that, Amy, personally. I've got some grievances. If you need any, you know, if ever you were to divorce your husband, I'm not saying that you should, and you need perhaps some like supporting statements, I would be happy to pen something for you.
I honestly don't know that I would be able to be in a relationship that could survive a time when if you didn't see an episode of TV live, you just didn't get to finish it ever.
I know, because like, would there have been reruns? Not for a while, I guess.
If Elizabeth changed the channel off of something that I couldn't then immediately go upstairs and just like watch on my own, it would be a relationship ender for me.
I think I was just going to say something that makes me sound so old. I was like, you know, we really should be so grateful. We should be so grateful that, you know, streaming is a thing now and we can rewatch our favorite episodes of things, because that just wasn't something that we had when we were children. I hate myself.
Also, I will say, just like Abby Bartlet in the background of any shot, just looking like Black Widow at every opportunity.
There's some phenomenal fashion look moments for Abby and for all the others in 2 cathedrals.
Yeah.
I feel like I've really talked on this for too long. David, I'm so sorry. These were not concise answers. I think it's wise to just, from this moment forward, if you do need information from Leigh and I, be prepared to carve out a decent amount of time, because we're not gals that can get to the point quickly.
No.
I think that's fair to say.
We also had the question from DJ on who's also one of our patrons, which ties in for me to 2 cathedrals, because DJ asked about our favorite needle drop, which is how we refer to the kind of music inspired moments of the series. And for me, it does, for this series, have to go to the Dire Straits cue.
honestly, I think it's unmatched. There are some incredible needle drops in this season. Creedence Clearwater Revival, Don Henley. But it's just a lack of dialogue and the intense presence of like Mark Knopfler and the Dire Straits gang. It's just perfection. And I this is the thing, and like why I love TV so much is I'm like, so Aaron Sorkin's writing that episode in what we can imagine is sort of some sort of crazed frenzy, which it appears is how he wrote most of the show while he was on it. He's then moved to be like, and then Dire Straits will start playing.
I think for me, it does have to be the Dire Straits. I mean, I'm normally like a pop girly myself.
I don't think this show is ever going to give you that, Leigh.
I am a pop girly myself, but there is something about the Dire Straits that I have always loved. And I think it's because their music is like sexy poetry. Like Romeo and Juliet, despite being a pop girly, is probably my favorite song of all time. And I think why I love the Dire Straits moment is because it just turned Jed Bartlet into like a sexy rock chick, which I didn't know that I needed.
You know what I think it is for me is that the Dire Straits are camp.
Yes. Thank you. You've hit the nail on the head there.
And that's like absolutely no shade. That's like wonderful. I just feel like many contemporary straight men that we know, Leigh, are like, the Dire Straits is absolute trash. I think they're awful. I don't think they make good music. And I'm like, that's because maybe it's not for you.
Do you hate fun?
Do you hate like storytelling? Do you hate absolutely filthy little guitar riff? Just
do you hate the sax?
Yourself.
No, you don't. You love the sax.
Yourself.
Everyone loves the sax.
And so I just think that perhaps there were people who love a little bit of campness. I think I'd say like boomers into our Gen X's were just here for a bit of storytelling, a bit of emotion in their rock music. And I just think a lot of millennials and Gen Zers are taking themselves too seriously these days. And I just think we need to lighten up and enjoy the camp.
It's one of the things that I love, I think, most about Aaron Sorkin is he clearly loves a power ballad.
Yes. And honestly, it does make me trust him more.
Agreed. Now, Fi, I'll throw the next one to you, also from David. But what was your favorite study sesh of the season?
I loved the study sessions that you did, and there was a couple that you touched on this season, which, you know, not just because it's something that I'm emotionally invested in, but we learned a lot of fun queer history. And I loved the session about the Equal Marriage Act, and just going back and looking at some of the amazing people that advocated for queer people being able to get married.
Yeah.
I just think that was a really lovely like moment to like feel some pride. And I think another standout study session you did, Leigh, was the one about Hick. Because I'm like, where's the film? Where's the TV series?
We love to see it. We also obviously did our study session into, you know, the ERA and Alice Paul. And we did have, you know, a conundrum as to like, why on earth is there not a film about her? Because she has such a fascinating life. And we had some really fun emails from our listener, Melanie, talking about how there is actually a film about Alice Paul in which Alice Paul is played by Hilary Swank. And you and I had plans to try and watch that film. We may still watch that film and do a little episode on it. But then we did have a couple of days later a really fun email back from Melanie again saying, I have led you astray. I just rewatched this for the first time in 20 years. This movie is absolute trash.
Thank you for doing the research for us on that one.
I'm appalled, pun not intended, but absolutely appreciated. So love that, Melanie. Thank you for the recommendation and then also the unrecommendation.
Leigh and I love terrible movies. Famously, the seed for this podcast even existing came from the fact that during the lockdowns in the UK, Leigh and I rewatched all of the Nicholas Sparks films. Not known perhaps for their high quality, but for their interesting storytelling. So perhaps we will indulge, Leigh. And I love Hilary Swank.
I love Hilary Swank.
She's one of those actors who can like give an Oscar-worthy performance in one film and then just do an absolute trash bag of a film. And I really, really rate that for her.
But we must move on to one of my favorite questions that we were asked for this season, which is, what would your Emmys be for this season and for which performances / episodes? I mean, I think the Emmys had it bang on with Bradley Whitford's performance in Noelle. I think that Emmy was absolutely deserved. What would your directing Emmy be, Fi?
Oh, that's such a good question.
There is a Tommy Schlamme, who was a producer on the show, directed many of the episodes. Yes. And I think I would have to give my directing Emmy to him for Two Cathedrals, because the whole visual of Two Cathedrals is so beautiful. I think the flashbacks were directed beautifully. I think the direction of Martin Sheen's performance, but also the way that the scenes within the National Cathedral were shot, I thought was so beautiful. So for me, I think that would be my directing Emmy for the season.
I'm going to agree. I know it seems like an easy answer, but I'm going to agree with you, because also something that he handled so perfectly was like the pitching of the performances in the flashbacks between young Dolores and young Jed. And like the kind of like energy and vibe of those flashback scenes felt so perfect. Like I really felt like we were in Jed's memory. And also, you know, shout out to your boy doing his guest starring turn as Jed's dad.
Yes, Lawrence O'Donnell. Yes. I also think I have to give a shout out and a honorable mention to Robert Berlinger, who directed 18th and Potomac, because I think the way that everything around Mrs. Landingham's death was shot was really, really beautiful.
And kind of the pitching of all of the scenes up until that final moment, like I was gagged because I just didn't see it coming. And I think it could have been really easy with those kind of Charlie and Mrs. Landingham scenes to over-egg the pudding slightly and and kind of foreshadow that something bad was going to happen to Mrs. Landingham. But I didn't get that at all. When the information dropped, when Charlie looked up with that phone in his hand, I did not think he was going to say that.
No,
and
me
that
either.
Actually is really great directing and really great writing. But yeah, 18. And I know again, that's an easy answer because those are like season finale episodes, but it's not easy to round off the season of a show, and I think both of them did a grand job.
Absolutely. Now, a really fun question. Fiona, a fellow Fiona on Patreon asks,
hey girl.
Would we rather A, get margarita pitchers with Donna and her girly flat share, B, cocktails with CJ at an upscale DC bar, or C, a champagne brunch with Dr. Abby Bartlett?
Oh. I want all of them. Oh, there's so many benefits to all three. So let's break this down. Let's strategize this. Now, the champagne brunch with Dr. Abby Bartlett would be iconic because I think Abby would be someone who'd be like, we'll travel there together.
Yes. My only thought is, I want to go where I'm going to get the most goss. And I don't know that I'm going to get a huge amount out of Abby Bartlett.
Now, I think high intensity gossip is something she doesn't share. But I think general chit-chat gossip, she does. So I think if you were at like a champagne brunch, she'd be like, Gloria, gorgeous to see you. Phenomenal. And how are the kids? And how's Michael? Fantastic. And then that woman would walk away and she'd be like, she's got a drinking problem and her husband has 2 women down, I think you'd get that. Like you'd get the society gossip from her. And that would be quite thrilling, I think. And I think I would get a bit like tipsy on champagne. And then I think she'd be like, come back to mine and Jed, come back to ours for the weekend in New Hampshire. Just make a weekend of it. And then I'd just be like having brunch in an oversized sweatshirt with the Bartletts.
I think for me...
sorry. Not that I've thought about it, but that's not my choice. I'm saying that's a fun vibe.
Yes.
See, I think that CJ would be very careful about what information she's giving me. So my argument is, now am I going for cocktails with CJ and that's the first time I'm hanging out with her? Or are we friends and we're going for cocktails? Because if it's the first time, then I think I'm only going to get so deep that maybe we'd make out.
Wow. Whoa.
Not that I think that I've got great chat, but I really do actually think that I think I could chat up an American. As long as they'd stop asking me if I'm Australian, I think I could get somewhere. Now, if we were friends and it was like, CJ, I've not seen you for a few months, we've got to go for a drink, then I think that that's a real contender for me, because a couple of like martinis and then me being like, but what the fuck's going on with Danny? And her being like, I don't know. And then we like get into it. And I think perhaps why I'm leaning towards this option, option A, is because I can go in having never met any of these women before, and I know that they'll tell me everything that they've ever thought of. And suddenly I'll be like painting someone's toenails whilst like someone else is like retching in the bathroom, and like someone's ordering pizza, and then like we'll be best friends forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just think the margarita pictures with the girly flat shirt is girlhood.
It really is. Yeah.
And I think that's potentially the environment I would thrive most in.
You know what? My answer was going to be CJ.
But I've swayed you.
You may have swayed me. Yes.
There's just something very, the episode of Friends, and I think it's in a very early season, where they have the sleepover, and I think they do make...
Oh my God, yeah. And they end up having to get the fire department out because they're burning all their ex-boyfriend's belongings.
I think it's that one. Yeah, and they're like all in the pajamas. Yeah. And they get a bit drunk and then they order pizza. And I think that's the one with George Stephanopoulos.
Yeah, they get George Stephanopoulos' pizza.
Yeah. It has that vibe about it for me, which is like... There's like this ancient blender that we're making drinks in. Like someone's ordered a pizza. Everyone's had a long week at work, and they're all working for different kind of government employees, or like they're all kind of EAs or like kind of entry junior level jobs. And we're all just having this big bitch fest. And then it's like, and then this guy didn't text me, or like I'm having this trouble. And we just like, it's 3 a.m. suddenly and we're all like drunk.
I want to make it my mission to get invited back to the girly flat share for a nightcap, and then for Josh Lyman to show up drunk with some kind of problem that he needs to talk to Donna about.
I want us to be an hour into talking to Donna about Josh, like the whole room. Yeah. Like everyone's pitching in, like people are shouting over each other. And then like as we're already getting into it, I want her cell phone to ring and it to be him, and then us all to scream.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's like 2 a.m. when we're going, he's drunk and he's calling you.
Yeah. Well, not to invoke an ex, but like that moment when I was at a wedding in Chicago and I had just been talking to all of the other bridesmaids about a certain situation that I was in where I'd been flirting with somebody. And then as I was about to walk down the aisle as a bridesmaid, that person slid into my DMs. From England.
That's insane. Yeah, it's very that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think, Fiona, the answer we're going for is A. And I think that's because we want it to be trashy, we want it to be messy.
Yeah. And I think Donna's going to give us that. Whereas it might be a slightly longer con with CJ.
Yeah, I think with both CJ and Abby, it's a longer gameplay.
Yeah.
But I can go in with Donna and the gals with nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Tessa on Patreon, another favorite question for me. Rank the senior staff based on how easy, difficult, fun you think it would be to work for them.
Okay, this is a really easy one for me.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd want to work with Josh because either it would wind me up, his like indecisiveness and like prating about, or I would fall in love with him.
I also wouldn't want to be another person who was managed by Josh while Donna is there. That would be so annoying.
Yeah. I think I would struggle with Leo because I feel like he's someone who's like, this is my system. And you're like, but I have an offer for how to streamline that. And I think he'd be like, no, this is my system. And I think that's just because he's at capacity. Like he doesn't have any space to reframe anything for himself. He's like, I've just got to keep going as I am. I'm also not interested in the like buying someone's Christmas presents and Christmas cards for them like you're a grown man.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously would love to be in the office with Charlie, but the reality is handling Jed would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
A true nightmare, because for all the moments of fun and silliness, there would also just be a lot of like, but you're the president of the United States and I need you to sit down and do this. So for me, my top choices, I think I'd need to be in the communications department, and I would be happy to report to either Sam or Toby.
I think for me it would be Toby, because I think Toby would be the most emotionally intelligent manager to work for. And also why do I also like kind of want to be Ginger when he like is just really emotionally supportive of her and like gives her a really platonic hug?
Yeah, I feel like if I worked for Toby or for Sam, I think if I really impressed them, they would go out of their way to help me progress in my career.
Yes, absolutely. I don't know that I could work for CJ because I would just be so flustered at all times.
I just think Carol's doing a phenomenal job and I wouldn't want to step on her toes.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
However, I wouldn't mind being part of the press corps and like just sort of like lusting after her from afar, hoping for a one-on-one at some point.
I'd love to be Jane Lynch. Do you know what I mean?
Wouldn't we all?
Now, also Tessa asks, like, of the side characters, e.g. Joey, the occasional Bartlet daughter, who do we want to see more of, and what capacity do you expect or hope to see them again? I'm really hoping for a return of Oliver Babbish next season. I'm hoping that he's going to kind of shepherd us through re-election. I also am very hopeful that we will have quite a strong Joey presence as we're getting polling numbers in throughout the campaign.
I agree. I would really hate for Babbish to kind of like, now we've released the information, for him to sort of fade away, because I think actually the legal side and like the kind of law-based side of everything that's happening in the White House is so interesting and so knotty. It's a really fantastic insight that we don't always get, because we get a lot of like, how do we make this public facing? Whereas the thing about Babbish is like, but how do we interpret law, and how do other people interpret law?
Legally, where do we stand? I think that's fascinating. I also would love for us to continue on our journey with Ellie. I would love for her to make a return. I would love to perhaps meet the boyfriend that Jed doesn't like.
Oh my God. And is it Elizabeth?
Yes, I would love to meet Elizabeth.
I would like to see a multiple Bartlet daughters in one scene.
I would also love the triumphant return of Fitzy.
I need to know he's okay. Bring Fitzy back season 3, please. I mean, I have loved Ainsley Hayes in this season. Again, I think going into re-election, part of me is wondering how important a role does she have to play in that? And I would hate to like kind of start losing that character, because I think she's such a useful tool to like challenge the characters and their viewpoints.
Also, as we were going through for our like best writerly moments of the season overall, so many of our favorite best writerly moments were coming through the mouth of Ainsley Hayes. I think she's such a fun character to write for.
Yeah, and Emily Proctor is so good.
Yeah.
She's got such phenomenal comic timing, and even when her character's talking about like something really serious, like she finds the twinkle in it, and the lightness that makes you want to care.
Absolutely. She has brought in such a fun new dynamic into season 2. It's very kind of like another bombshell enters the villa. And I just have loved that from the moment she arrived. Also, our thoughts, hopes, and predictions about Josh and Donna for season 3.
Okay. If it were you, I wouldn't stop for red lights. Where do we go from there, Leigh?
Where do we go from there? I did poll our Instagram followers on a variety of things, one of which was the most iconic Donna Moss moment of season 2. And almost unanimously, the most iconic Donna Moss moment of season 2 for our Instagram followers was, in fact, if you were in an accident, I wouldn't stop for red lights. We did also have an honorable mention from Becca about lying to CJ about the leak, and also her reaction to, from SB Cappy, her reaction to Jed's MS, and her no makeup reaction to Josh in Shadow of Two Gunmen.
Yes. Honestly, Janelle Maloney she has been worth every cent they've paid to have her be a series regular.
She has gone from strength to strength this season, and dare I say, Janelle Maloney has been my MVP of the season.
I agree, and it's because, as we say so often, she is our entry point into this world, and she helps us kind of understand that, like, it's okay if we don't get it. Like, this isn't normal life for everyone. I love that from her.
I fear that we're not going to have any development for Josh and Donna in season 3. I think we're looking at season 4, realistically.
Yes, I think we're going to have a cool off for the first half of season 3. I think the thing with Josh and Donna is they just keep going as they are until something happens, until there's a prompt that means that they have to relinquish something to one another. And then it never really gets acted on.
We've also seen Josh have another flirtation. We've seen Josh have the flirtation with Joey Lucas. I wonder if where we go in season 3 is we see Donna have somebody else. And Josh's kind of emotional reaction to that.
Because realistically, the character that Josh is, he's only ever going to do anything about Donna if it's like, I think we said this before when we were kind of like pulling apart their narrative, which is I can see Donna like dating someone and Josh being like, yeah, he'll never go anywhere. The guy's an absolute loser. And then Donna will be like, he proposed. And I said, yes, I'm so excited. And Josh will be like, she'll never marry him. And then it's like the day of her wedding. And Josh is like, she's not going to do it, right? She'll realize it's me.
Oh my God. Josh has his Tay-Tay speak now moment.
Yeah. His busted, I'm glad I crashed the wedding.
I'm so sorry for everyone that I just referred to her as Tay-Tay. I hate myself.
It's all right. It's an early morning. I think Josh could leave it till moments before coming down the aisle.
Whoa.
And I hate that. I think it needs to be Donna to decide, like, is something going to happen? But that's my prediction.
I don't know if it's like a wedding or if it's Donna's met someone who like lives in another state and she needs to leave DC.
Yeah, and he's
I
like,
got off the plane.
Yeah,
you know, like that kind of vibe.
And it's like, you're really going to walk out on like this job?
Yeah, but it's actually, you're really going to walk out on me.
Leigh, this is just a bit of conjecture, but after I stayed at yours the other night and I was walking away, I think it's because we've been talking about Eurovision, and I was like thinking about other like parties and things, and I was like, we should do a West Wing Halloween party because you've got Leigh's bought a wig for an acting role that she's doing at the moment. I was like,
actually, we should go ahead and announce that in case anybody is going to be around Edinburgh Fringe. Everyone, dear listeners, me and Fi are returning to Theatreland this summer. I'm doing a one-woman show. Fiona's directing it, called Rotus, Receptionist of the United States, and it's going to be a fun comedic time. If anyone's at Edinburgh Fringe, please do come and see us.
Well, as we kind of firm up more stuff, we will release more information.
Yeah.
But yeah, Leigh bought this phenomenal blonde wig, and part of me was like, should you go as Janelle Maloney?
As Donna Moss.
And I'll go as Red Lights. I'll just make an outfit that is a set of traffic lights.
Yeah. I do think also my girlfriend would make a lovely Josh Lyman.
Yes.
You know,
and once again, I'll just be involved as the person who's around. Just you guys in a couple's costume and me being like, also, I'm involved.
With your husband, Toby Ziegler.
Look, this is all coming together nicely.
What I will say is, I think I've just cracked it. I think what's going to happen with Josh and Donna next season is that we're going to have a moment where we think it's all lost and Jed Bartlet is not going to win a second term. Obviously, he actually is going to win a second term, but we have a moment where we think it's not going to happen. Josh then has to reckon with the fact that if he's not deputy chief of staff, then he's not going to be working with Donna every day.
Yeah. And then he's like, this is how I feel. And then it's like, actually, Bartlet's won. I think it'll all be on election night. This will all be on election night as the results are coming in.
Josh has this moment of like, this is how I feel, but then Donna like has a date at election night. Like has like a +1 there with her watching the results come in.
Because what I want to come back to is the amazing moment, which was the episode where Donna had to tell Josh that his dad had died. Was the night that you were like, I feel like was one of my greatest pieces of information, which was I think Josh was going to kiss Donna. I feel like what I want to build up to again is that moment again where Josh is like, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And then there's a block in the way again, but he's like, no, I don't care that this dude's here. I'm going to pull you out onto the portico and kiss you.
Yeah. Now, we also put to our Instagram followers the most Let Bartlet Be Bartlet moment of season 2. Now, I know we have some answers of our own also, but from Instagram, we have it's been pretty unanimous. It's all very Two Cathedrals based, except for the real T-Palms on Insta who said, let's not you and I confuse it with things men do, with reference to the game of golf. But other than that, it was pretty unanimous. Julie said the moment with Leo saying, watch this. Fiona, SB Cappy and Uda Source also all said hands in pockets, turn away, smile. And then Ratch on Instagram also said the crazy Latin yelling in Two Cathedrals.
Yes. I mean, I feel like those are very Let Bartlet Be Bartlet in the like kind of political sense. A lot of them. For me, I've gone for my Let Bartlet Be Bartlet, which is just like, let the crazy flow. So like, one of mine was, I hate Ellie's boyfriend.
I hate Ellie's boyfriend was iconic. Also, I'm just going to very rapid fire run through some of what I feel are the most unhinged Bartlet moments. Let's hit the sky in the Portland trip.
Just on the steps of Air Force One. Let's hit the sky.
Also, one last thing, while you may have mistaken this for your weekly meeting at the Ignorant Tight-Ass Club, in this building, when the president stands, nobody sits.
Yes. I also loved, there are some good things in this world, not from New England. Toby, never let me hear you say that again.
Also, anything written after 1860 sucks from Galileo.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
You see, Charles, even though it's a handshake, I'm able to make him feel like a friend, and that's a little thing called people skills.
So good. And John Hopkins is in Baltimore. I'm asking because Baltimore is a 45-minute car ride from Washington, D.C., and we hardly see you anymore. So I thought that either you transferred to a different medical school, they moved John Hopkins, or they moved Baltimore. Just at your own daughter.
Also loved, Abby's in New Hampshire. Want to come up for a cigar? I'll beat you at chess.
So good.
That was the real, like, my friends, my beer and my chili moment from season 1.
And we'll round off with the moment where I think it's him and Charlie and they're in their like white tie outfits. And Charlie's like, I didn't know people dressed like this anymore. And Jed Bartlet just confidently goes, I bought it back. Did you? Single-handedly?
Top hats and tails, really?
What I will say also is an honorable mention in this section of Let Bartlet Be Bartlet, which is just when Jed tried to fuck Abby in the Oval Office.
That was pretty iconic for
Him
sure.
Being like,
for sure.
Oh God, do you think these curtains close? What are you doing? And also his reference to Abby's special little garment.
Oh my God, yeah, that was horrifying. Most Claudia Jean moment of season 2, we had Oda Source on Instagram saying the ending of Galileo when she marches into the Oval. Julie saying the Thanksgiving turkeys.
Yes.
Becky saying, I'm great in bed in her gorgeous dress.
Yes.
And then also SB Cappy for holding it down when Ed Barry calls her kitten.
I almost threw up just then. Wow. Yeah.
For me, some nominations. I'm the enforcer. I'm going to crush him, Sam. I'm going to make him cry, and then I'm going to tell his mom about it.
Yeah, that was so good.
And also, I was in trouble, and I needed to tell someone. A cohort. Someone whose criminal mind was equal to my own. Cut to Donna Moss.
Very good. Very good.
We also asked the most devastating Toby Ziegler moment of season 2. Obviously, we have, I need a doctor, when he discovers Josh.
Oh my God.
The Windcaster also coming in hard with, why does Hoynes think the president's not going to run? We also had several people saying either kind of like the long realization of Bartlet or the throwing of the ball in 17 people as he's kind of mulling things over, stewing.
That's iconic, isn't it? Just with the little rubber ball.
Also Hamish on Instagram saying when he just has a drink with Sam after the drop-in.
When he's like, I'm just going to sit here and finish my drink, and if you want to talk, then we can talk.
Yeah.
Oh.
I also asked the kind of most boys will be boys moment of season 2 from Sam and Josh, and pretty much universally, it was almost unanimous. People said when they accidentally almost lit the White House on fire in the leadership breakfast.
I agree. That's really, really funny. And then I think the thing that I want to counter that with is we have them being boys will be boys, like Shadow of Two Gunmen Part 1, where they're wheeling Josh through the hospital and Sam's there. He's like, it's me, it's Sam. You came to New Hampshire. You came and got me.
Oh my God.
Just like, they are just such good friends. They love each other so much. That's also the episode where Jed goes under anesthetic and Leo kisses him on his forehead.
Oh my God, yeah.
Fuck. These men. I just can't get enough of these men.
Speaking of, our top man, I feel like a man's of the season.
Oh my God, there's so many good ones.
Shall we just quickly run through?
He sent that ball back into my face like I talked about his sister. Thank you, John Hoynes.
Actually, you have no sense about these things. You have no vibe. You have terrible taste in men, and your desire to be coupled up will always and forever drown out any sense of self or self-worth you may have. So many of these are from Josh Lyman.
Your husband's a real son of a bitch, Mrs. Bartlet.
Let's put him on a stamp. Let's put you on a stamp.
Outrageous. Your assistant, Margaret, is looking positively buxom. Just a shout out Lord John Marbury. What up, boy?
Can't believe he actually made a comeback in season 2. Didn't see that coming.
I could see him returning again, honestly.
I think he's going to pop up when we least expect it. Do you know what I mean?
As often annoying Englishmen do.
No, I don't get jealous. I don't like it. And I usually do everything in my considerable capabilities to sabotage it. About Josh Lyman on Donna Moss's dating life.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is a good one. My father didn't pick up a cocktail waitress, Leo. He's had a woman in an apartment in Santa Monica for 28 years.
Iconic. And I didn't know quite where to fit this last one in. I don't know if it's really a man I feel like a man moment, but it was certainly, for me, a almost coming of age moment for Sam Seaborn. So in that ways, it is a man I feel like a man moment, but it was high treason and it mattered a great deal. This country is an idea, and one that has lit the world for 2 centuries, and treason against that idea is not just a crime against the living. This ground holds the graves of people who died for it, who gave what Lincoln called the last full measure of devotion, of fidelity. You understand, the last full measure of devotion to treason against them is... And then he can't continue.
He's so emotional he can't finish his thought. Mm-hmm. Which I imagine is a struggle for Sam Seaborn, because boy loves to chat.
He's a spokesman. It's in his blood.
It's in his blood. I feel like I'm going to close out this section with the clear winner of Man, I Feel Like a Man, which is, she was a real dame, old friend, a real broad.
And our best rivalry moments, Fee.
It's so hard to distill these because I think there are so many really good ones, but there were some like little pithy ones that kind of came to mind, and lots of them are kind of cued from moments of nonsense. So for that reason, I'm going to Margaret. I think this is Shadow Two Gunmen Part 2, where she said, "Do you want me to forge the president's signature on the the kind of the memo that's supposed to give power to John Hoynes?" She's like, "I'd probably end up doing some time for that." And Leo says, "And what the hell are you doing practicing the president's signature?" And she just says, "Just for fun." You do you, Margaret. Never change.
I also loved You Found Your Office, such as it is. From Ainsley Hayes.
So good. And actually, speaking of Ainsley, the back and forth she has with Sam, where he's like, you must have them rolling in the aisles back in Georgia.
I'm from North Carolina.
Wherever it was that you studied baton twirling.
That would be Harvard Law School.
Stunning.
Also, just everything Bernard says.
Yes.
Also, from Leo McGarry, we can't put a fork full of waffles in our mouth without giving up the ball.
Because he's the coach.
It's one of my favorite mixed metaphors of all time.
The iconic moment surrounding the underwear falling out of Donna's pant leg when she went to go and see the woman that everyone's scared of, who may or may not be based on Aaron Sorkin's ex-girlfriend. The reason they know they're your underwear is that your name is sewn in the back, which of course we'll talk about at a later date.
I also love just a simple from Leo McGarry, sharpen a pencil, would you?
Yeah. Oh, to the late, great Mrs Landingham.
Also just all of the discourse around vegans, I believe in the drop-in.
2,000 environmentalists are going to try and kill me tomorrow night. They're going to come at me with vegan food and pitchforks.
And finally, I'm in some hellish hold world of holding.
Just Josh Lyman having to wait for anything.
Yeah. And then I feel like we should close out with some character predictions, Fi, for season 3.
Yes. I wonder before then, Leigh, we have covered this a little bit, but last town hall we talked about favorite new characters.
Yes.
And we have touched on this a little bit, but I wonder if you could give me your 3 standout, like, new people that you want to see next season.
I mean, of course, the iconic Ainsley Hayes. I can't believe that there was ever a time we were watching this show and she wasn't in it. I will also say, as I said previously on this record, Oliver Babbish is a real standout for me. And was Nancy introduced this season or last season?
She was.
And Nancy is a huge standout for me, you know, from the moment that she walked in full glam saying, you know, does anyone have anything I could change into? I look ridiculous.
Yes, exactly.
Walking into the Situation Room. She's an icon. And, you know, while I've obviously been deeply concerned about the absence of Fitzy, I think she has been a really honourable stand-in for him.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Ellie and Millicent Griffith, Dr. Millicent Griffith.
Yeah, there's so many great women that came up in this season.
These women. I can't get over these women.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's roll on into predictions for next season.
I think next season we are going to get some absolute hijinks on the campaign trail.
Do you think we're going to go on the road?
I think we're going to go on the road. I have also, listeners have told us to look forward to Barn Toby. And that is something I'm deeply intrigued about.
So a question I have, because I don't know anything, is obviously Toby, CJ, Leo, and Sam, and Josh won't be able to be part of the campaign team.
Yes. So
we're going to have some new characters.
I am very intrigued. I'm hoping
Joey Lucas, campaign manager.
I really want Joey Lucas to be campaign manager.
Yeah.
Or at least be, you know, somebody who's heavily involved in working for the campaign. I'm intrigued to see where else we have to go in the Joey Lucas, Josh dynamic.
Yeah. Is that over? Since she said, look, this is fun and all, but you're in love with Donna. I don't think she's going to give him anything.
No, I'm also intrigued of, have we seen the last of Danny Concannon?
What I would love is for Danny Concannon to sort of fade out, and then like maybe at the end of next season or even like season 4 for him to come back and us to have not really talked about the fact that he left the press corps and he's gone and done something else, but he's come back in a different position and like at a time when CJ was least expecting it, it's just turned up and been like, hey, should we go for dinner? And had to be like, well, I got over you. And now you're back. And
very intriguing. I want more of a romantic life for CJ.
I know what you mean. I think the thing that I loved about the Danny thing was the sort of secret kissing at work and like that quite like kind of like fiery sexiness. But actually the reality is that I think she's very fulfilled and I don't think she's interested in having a relationship.
I do understand that, but I feel as though we get to see Sam and Josh be kind of guys about town. And I would love to get to see CJ be a gal about town. It doesn't necessarily have to be a relationship. I would just love to see her maybe have a little fling on the campaign trail.
I would be up for some flings. I mean, I feel like the way
Bring back the hot comedian. Let her have a fling with him.
Oh my God, yes.
Cornelius.
Yeah, bring him back because he was fit. I think that the way CJ's written is that she's often dating men. We just don't get to see it. And actually, I just think I want to see, she does use her feminine wiles. I just think maybe we just need to see more of it. Romance-wise, I would love to see more Zoe and Charlie. I'd love to see how their relationships progressed in the time that Zoe's not been on our screens.
I would also love to see the dynamic between Ellie and Zoe. We've not yet had a scene with them together.
Well, yeah, that was one of my, when we were discussing Bartlet daughters earlier, I feel like I would love we're on the campaign trail. We need to do like a family event or like photo op. And it's like Jed, Abby, Ellie, Zoe, and then like Elizabeth and her daughter. And we're doing like a Christmas card shoot or something.
Yes.
You know, we are the American family. And just like for them to have to do this like really soulless thing and then just all of the time that we're just like arguing and pissing each other off. I would love that.
I would love that. Also, we did mention in Two Cathedrals that Jed is going to need a new secretary. And who is that going to be?
Okay, so I'm going to give you some quick fires on this, Leigh. Internal hire or external hire?
External hire, new character alert.
Same age range as other EAs or not?
I'm going to say like CJ generational equivalent.
Okay.
So not 20s, maybe 30s.
Male or female?
We don't need another male character. I think female, but a very different energy to Mrs. Landingham.
Are they going to be a stranger to Jed or someone he already knows?
I feel like it's going to be someone that either Leo or Josh brings in and recommends, and Jed has to take a while to warm up to. I think they have a personal connection to somebody already on the team. They have a prior history with somebody already on the team, but they are not someone that Jed immediately clicks with. And then they have to go through something together to kind of have a bonding moment of Jed saying, I know you're never going to be Mrs. Landingham, but I do believe in your ability to do this job.
My hot take, and I don't wish to be a negative Nelly, is that the position will be filled with someone that we hear from only when it's like, Sandra, can you bring that in for me? Thank you so much, Mrs. So-and-so. And actually, we'll take the screen time that Mrs. Landingham was having and we'll give it to the Janelle Maloney's or the Emily Proctors of this world or to Margaret, Bonnie, Ginger. I think in terms of having someone in that office with a history with Jed, with an emotional connection, we have that in Charlie.
Yes, I would love for Charlie to have slightly more to do.
Yes, and maybe I think this next season might be a real game changer for Charlie because the campaign trailer is going to be somewhere where he's going to be so busy.
Yes, and he's also going to be trying to study at college at the same time.
Yeah, doing night school. Do we think we're going to see Andrea, Andy?
Yeah. I think she's going to be like a Lord John Marbury, that she just pops up. I think she's going to pop up in a dark moment on the campaign trail for Toby to like remind him who he is.
And what do we see for Sam Seaborn and his love life? Like, do we see Laurie? Do we see Mallory? Do we see anyone returning for him?
No, I think Mallory and Laurie are over.
Yes.
I think Sam has had a lot of romantic storylines. I think we might have a full season where Sam doesn't have any romantic storylines, but we have a different personal life, something happening for him.
I proffer you this, Leigh, which is, we've been putting some flirtation between Sam Seaborn and Ainsley Hayes. Now, I want two different things. I want them to start secret kissing. But I also want them to have a secret kiss and then both be like, actually, I think we're friends. And like, I feel like both of us needed to see if we were more than that. But
I prefer answer B, I think. I think that's more interesting to me.
It's way more interesting, but it's the year 2001 that this show was made. So who knows? But yeah, I would love for there to be, I'm so obsessed with you. I think about you all the time. We flirt all the time. And then something happens. And then when that does happen, it's like, oh, I think I'm actually just obsessed with you because I really want you to be my friend. And I really want to spend all my time with you and talk to you all the time. And it's actually not romantic. And maybe I've never had that before with a woman.
I would love for them to have a crazy night on the campaign trail where they just like wake up in bed next to each other the next morning and then just go, let's never discuss this.
Yeah. And like, let's never do this again. I think we needed that.
Yeah.
And also kudos. Had a great time. But maybe this isn't what we are.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
That would be really fun.
Also, hungover Ainsley Haynes is one of my favorite things.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love, in the way that I know that Donna will probably be the only EA that gets to kind of series regular level. But I would be fascinated to have a little bit of a something for Carol. I feel like Carol has been such a consistent presence through the whole 2 series thus far. And I would be fascinated for a little bit more of a story with Carol, whether that's, she's kind of holding the fort while CJ is off doing something with the campaign, or what that story is. But I feel like we are ripe for a little something for Carol.
Yeah, I think expanding our experience of each of the teams makes sense because I feel like Janelle has paved the way for that. And I think there's some space while we're on the campaign trail to like see Bonnie and Ginger and Carol stepping into more responsibility and just being more present in episodes and having a little bit more than just exchange moments, but perhaps having full scenes.
Yes, and we've had a little tease of Bonnie and Ginger either having emotional reactions to things in season 2 or maybe having opinions about things when they're kind of like rolling their eyes at Sam a little bit when he's kind of monologuing. I would love to see the gals chatting to each other a little bit more.
I think I love that for Carol. I feel that naturally that's happening with Margaret. And has been over season 2.
Yes.
I think if the EAs weren't key in forward momentum to the show and weren't going to have more screen time, we wouldn't have lingered on them in the cathedral and noted their reactions to Mrs Landingham.
And we also, I think, wouldn't consistently be getting the same actors in for 2 full seasons if we weren't going to do something with them.
It would be like, oh, thanks so-and-so, thanks so-and-so. Like there wouldn't be that kind of consistency. I really want to start watching season 3.
I know. I'm fascinated.
So Leigh, here we are at the end of our town hall. And it's, I mean, I feel like I could keep going.
Yeah. Thank you so much to all of our listeners that sent in questions, whether it have been on Patreon or people who got in touch via email. This has been so fun. What a jam-packed season 2 has been.
I think we're just on the up and up, Leigh. I think it's just going to keep getting better.
Yeah.
Things can only get better.
I'm also excited for Aaron Sorkin to experiment with some more needle drops in season 3.
Okay, one final bit of conjecture. When you start dating someone, and I say this in kind of like when we were sort of younger than we are now, Leigh.
Yeah.
And there was that like moment where you got to choose music on their iPod.
Yes.
And you got to like scroll through their artists.
Yeah.
I would love to do that with Aaron Sorkin's iPod. I know that doesn't really work now because people are like, people don't have iPods. But that was a real thing when you would start dating someone. You'd be like on the bus together going somewhere or like in their car and like they're like, oh, you can choose the music. Or like in their room, like about to put like, like an iPod in a docking station to play music.
Oh my God, my iPod dock, you're taking me back.
I know. And you'd be like, oh my God, I hope they think I've got really good taste in music.
I mean, that was never true for me. No one I've ever dated has ever thought I have good taste in music.
I think that that's different now. I think your current girlfriend thinks you have a good taste in music.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably true.
Shout out Lizzie. Yeah, that's my last bit of conjecture, which is I would love to sit and go through Aaron Sorkin's iPod.
I mean, I think there is a playlist that exists that's all the music that's in the West Wing.
But I don't want to go and listen to it because spoilers.
I know. And also, actually, a huge shout out and a thank you to all of our listeners for being so good about not spoiling things for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Thank you all for being so careful. And thank you also just so much for listening through 2 seasons.
I know. It feels like there's this amazing community that Leigh and I have been invited to be a part of since we started watching The West Wing. And it's just been really fun to read all your emails and the messages that you send us. And the reason why we started this podcast was because, we wanted to find some comfort in the terrifying existence of life. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we found that with this TV show, but we've also found that in all of the people that we chat to who listen in. And so we really appreciate you guys. And I feel like we really want to come back and do season 3.
We really do. We're going to take a little bit of a break while we get ourselves organized for doing season 3, but we will be back with you very soon. And just sending like so much love and solidarity to all of our listeners in the States, because I know we kind of like started this podcast when we were fully expecting to see Kamala Harris in the White House. I suppose at the time, actually, we were thinking we were going to be in the second Biden term right now.
Which seems like forever ago.
A lifetime ago, but it was less than a year ago that we started this podcast. So we're just sending so much love and solidarity, and also like just sending so much strength to all of our listeners who are doing things like going to their town halls and writing to their elected representatives and fighting for the things that you believe in.
We're with you.
We will be back in your ears very soon.
And until then, Leigh, God bless America.
God bless America.
Let Bartlet be Bartlet.
Just let him.